crappy day. All day, rain, stop rain, rain, stop rain. Can't really get out, and I wanted to do some cooking in the Dutch oven today. I know. Let's take advantage of this time and dehydrate some camp meals so we're ready to go this season. That's what we're gonna do. So today we're gonna make one of our favorite dehydrated camping meals. This one really hits the spot after a long day on the trail. If you're kind of worn out, if it's a little bit chilly, this one is one of our favorites. What are we making today? Well, in celebration of St. Patrick's Day, we're going to make Guinness infused chili, and it's really, really a simple recipe. And if you have the dehydrator, I really encourage you to try to make some of these meals. So, what are we putting into our chili today? Let's have a look. All right, two of the stars of the show today are a pound of ground bison. If you want to use ground beef, just make sure it's 90% lean or higher, and 3 strips of thick cut bacon. And since it is St. Patrick's Day, in goes a Guinness. The chili powder today is from Rancho Gordo. It's got sort of more of the New Mexico type chilies in it. We like this one. And we're using the European version of Maggi. It has less salt in it than the Mexican Jugo. We like this because it just rounds out the flavors. It gives it a little bit more depth. And along with that, petite diced tomatoes, and we are using petite. Since we're drying this, we want to make sure they're chopped fine. Some black beans, garlic, onion, and a mixture of spices. So first thing we need to do is we need to brown the beef. So let's get started. So as I said, the first step is browning up the bison. You can use ground beef if you like. Just make sure that you get a 90% lean or higher. We don't want a lot of fat in this. Since we're dehydrating it, fat will tend to turn rancid quicker, so we want to avoid having too much fat in our final product. You also, when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you get the beef in small chunks. You don't want big chunks of the meat because you want it to be able to dehydrate and rehydrate well. So we're going to go ahead and break this up into chunks, and once this is browned, we'll take it out, we'll drain it on a paper towel, and get ready to cook the bacon. The beef is browned, so we're going to go ahead, that out of the pan, put it on a paper towel to soak up any remaining grease. All right, let's get that bacon browned up. And real quick, I'm using a pan here for this part of for browning the meat and stuff like that. And the only reason I'm using a pan and not just doing everything in the Dutch oven is just because I want to try to minimize the amount of fat that goes in the oven. Otherwise, I would have just cooked everything in the oven, Dutch oven that is. Our bacon is right where we want it. We don't want it to be overly crisp, but it's nice and brown and it seems to have rendered its fat. So we're going to go ahead and take that out, put it on a paper towel, let it drain a bit. We are going to use 1 tablespoon of this oil in our Dutch oven. So once we get this bacon out, on goes the Dutch oven. We're going to let that warm up for a bit. Then we'll saute our onions. All right, as you can see, our bacon grease is good and warm. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put in the medium onion, and we're just going to soften this up. And for today's cook, we are using a cast iron Dutch oven. This particular one is made by Burl Furnace. It's the only enamel Dutch oven made in the United States. So way to go, Burl Furnace. Okay, the onions are soft, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to throw our spices in right now just to let those bloom for about 30 seconds, along with our garlic. And while that is starting to bloom, I'm going to go ahead and open this Guinness. Oh, what a lovely sound that is. Oh, this is already very aromatic. Smells phenomenal. Wow, I wish you could smell this. This is really aromatic. Okay, that's about 30 seconds. Everything's well mixed, so in goes the Guinness. I do love that foamy Guinness head. We're going to go ahead and just let that foam settle down a bit and then toss the hamburger back in and bring it up to a simmer and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. Okay, our mixture is up to a simmer. I misspoke earlier. We're gonna simmer this as it sits for about 6 minutes. At that point, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna throw our tomatoes, our beans, our Maggi into the pot and simmer that for 20 minutes. Now our 6 minutes is up and it is time to add our tomatoes, our black beans, and our secret ingredient, the Maggi seasoning. So let's stir that in. We're gonna bring this back to a simmer and let it go for 20 minutes. We've been simmering for 20 minutes. Now is the time to test it. Take a quick taste, see if the seasoning is to your liking. You can always add more if you want. And at this point, we're going to toss the bacon back in. Give it a quick stir, let it simmer 10 more minutes, and then it is done. Now, once this simmers for the next 10 minutes, this is ready to eat. So if you're at camp and you have the capacity to cook something delicious like this at the camp, this is ready to go. And I think everybody camping with you would call you their hero for the night. We're gonna take that extra step and dehydrate it, but there's no need to. This is ready to go. Our last 10 minutes is up. This is ready to eat. So if you're gonna eat now, bon appetit. But if you're interested to see how we dehydrate it and package it for our camping trips, stick around. It's time to go ahead and load the dehydrator. We're gonna let it run overnight and we'll just package it in the morning. But first things first, we have to load the dehydrator. And for this session, we are just gonna use the Nesco Garden Master Dehydrator and with the solid trays in it. So let's get this loaded up. And when we load this, we really want to utilize a tray, but we want to make sure that it's thin. We don't want thick globs. We want to make sure that the air can get to everything. We got this all on 3 trays. We are going to go ahead and run this at 145 degrees overnight. So we'll check back in the morning and see how it did. And good morning. The dehydrator has been going overnight and we have a nice dry batch of chili. As you can see, it's nice and dried out. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this cool. We wanna make sure that this is nice and cool before we put it in the package because we don't want any condensation to develop in the package because it's hot. And once this cools down, we're gonna go ahead and package it up and we'll be right back to show you how that works. Since we're going to use this summer for camping, we're gonna go ahead and store it in a Ziploc freezer bag. These things work really well. And on the bag, we write the name of the recipe, the amount of water required to reheat it and whether it's cold or boiling, so the B is boiling, 15 to 20 minutes, and we use this recipe before 9/23. It's good for about 6 months, and if you want to store it for a longer period of time, you can put it in a vacuum bag or a Mylar bag, and they say vacuum bags are good for 3 to 5 times the storage, so easily a year in a vacuum bag, and if you put it in the freezer, you would probably get a couple years out of this. So that's what we do. So let's go ahead and pack this up. We have 306 grams of total food. We're going to package this in 2 servings. So we're going to put 153 in each bag. So let's get that done and we'll come back and wrap up. We've got our food packaged. We decided to go ahead and vacuum seal one side of it just to show you the difference. So the Ziploc bag, it's ready to go. It's ready to rehydrate and use it before September. The vacuum seal bag obviously is a much tighter airtight seal, hence the name vacuum bag. But I do think that when we go to rehydrate this, we will probably transfer it to another bag because there's not a lot of room in here to rehydrate. So anyway, this one is good for a year plus. This one is good for 6 months, and we're ready to go. Now, for this recipe, we did use and modify slightly a recipe from one of our favorite camping cookbooks. It's the Dehydrator Cookbook for Outdoor Adventures, and I'm gonna go ahead and link that below. We think this is a great book for these types of meals. There's a lot of really good recipes in here. good tips and hints on how to dehydrate things, and we use it all the time. So I suggest if you're interested in dehydrating your own food, this is a great book to start because it does have complete recipes like this that you dehydrate and can make at camp. So I hope you've enjoyed watching us make the Guinness black bean chili, and I sure hope you try it at home. If you like the content, please take a moment to hit that sub button, give us a thumbs up, and share with your friends. And the corned beef is in the crock pot. Have a happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody, and we'll see you outdoors.